Hi, today we're talking about how to use one large light source for portraits. So the light we're going to be using today is an Elinchrom Octabank. And here it is, it's 72 inches, and this light costs about $1,000, and there's a lot of shots you can do with just this light. Now if you wanted a light like this, you don't have to spend that much. Chimera makes one that's 5 feet, so it's about right here, it's about 5 feet, and then it comes with these attachments that you can add on to make it 7 feet. So you pay about $750, and you're basically getting 2 lights. Then there's one from Photech that's only about $250, maybe $300, that basically looks the same. It's a big 7-foot light. So you have a lot of choices when it comes to these lights. Now the reason I chose this particular light is because I liked the way you set it up and break it down. Because for me, if I have a light that's a complicated thing to set up, then I'm not going to want to use the light. If I say to myself, let's say I'm shooting with a ring light, for example, and I say, oh, let me use my big light, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, I got to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rods, plug them into little slots, and put it up. If I'm thinking that this is going to be a complicated process, I'm never going to use the light. So how you set it up and break it down was important to me. Now this has a very quick breakdown. I'm going to put my hand here. I'm going to move a little switch here. You probably can't see it, but there's a little knob here that I'm going to hit, and the entire unit is going to collapse. So we're going to bring the camera back a little bit. I'm going to hit the little switch. The light collapses, the umbrella collapses. I'm going to support the weight of it here. Unscrew this little screw here. Lift it up, and the light is now broken down. Now when it comes to setting up the light, that's quick as well. Grab the light. I like to support it on my arm here. I'm going to feed this little connection here and tighten this. So now I'm going to come inside of the light here. I'm going to grab on to the middle ring. And there's a little, again, might be hard to see on the video, but there's a little handle inside. So place my hand on the speed ring connector and grab the handle inside. Now it's just a matter of connecting these 3 prongs into the 3 slots here. Okay, and the light is connected. So that entire setup probably took, what, 15, 20 seconds? So for me, that's a big deal. If you're on location, you can bring this light, you know you can set it up and break it down quickly, and you can do it alone without an assistant. So we're going to take a look now at some different ways you can use this one light. So one of the ways I like to use the Octabank is to do headshots. So we have our lovely model, Miss Debbie Park here. Okay, and she's maybe, I guess, what, about 10 feet away from this Octabank. And generally, if you want a soft shot, you would put the light very close to the model. You'll often see people put a light, you know, a foot away or half a foot away. But because this light is so large, I can put it 10 feet away. It's still going to be a soft light on her. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a light reading. Can you hold that a second, please? So we're going to take a light reading, and you'll see another interesting thing about this particular light. So I go to take my light reading, and I'm reading 8.7 on her face. As I get a little lower, I'm reading 8.7. As I get here, I'm reading 8.8, and here, 8.7 again. So you see I'm virtually the same exposure from her head all the way down to her knees. At one point, I read 1/10 of a stop difference between here and here, and then it was right back there. So it's basically the same exposure. That can be nice sometimes, because if you're trying to do some kind of, like, say, catalog shoot where you want to show her clothing and you want even exposure across the board, it can be nice that you can use just one light and get a really nice, even exposure. Beautiful. Start moving the right shoulder to me a bit. Good. Right shoulder to me now. Good. Little slower motion. So you might wonder, well, what's the big deal about using one light? If you're in a studio, why not just set up 4 or 5, 6 lights, whatever, and tweak them and get your shot that way? Well, there's a nice advantage to using only one light. So let's suppose I'm taking a shot of Debbie on this gray background, and we do 10 or 20 shots, and I decide I want a different background. So I say, Debbie, can you do us a favor, please? Step over to this wall. Put her on a different background. We move our light. To here. And now we have an entirely different shot, because it only took us 10 or 15 seconds to move the light from one position to the other. If we were doing 5 or 6 lights, it would take us that much longer to position each light. Good. Chin up again. Looking down at the camera. Small smile, a lot of confidence there. Chin up now, with the smile. Usually when you see photographers do portraits, they'll do something where they have a main light and a fill light, dealing with lighting ratios, trying to get some shadow on the face. So if you look at her now, I put her in a very hard light. This is not a light that I would really use for a portrait on Debbie, but I'm just trying to illustrate a point. When you have shadow on the face, it can be a very good thing. It can help to define the shape of the face as the shadow moves. Sometimes you can get a really good sense of the shape of her face by the shadows, as you see now. Her cheeks are in shadow, and you get a really good idea of the shape of her face. So if you're using a really soft light, like this Octabank, you're not going to get that kind of definition on the face. However, the way I look at it is, we all know what a face looks like. We all understand what we're looking at when we look at a face. So even if we don't really see the exact shape of her cheeks, I think our brain kind of fills in exactly what the shape of her face is, even without the shadow. If, for example, you had a ball or a sphere and you lit it without shadow, it would be very hard to understand what you're looking at because you don't really have a frame of reference. What is this object that I'm looking at? And there are no shadows in this picture to give me visual clues. However, with her face, we've seen a million faces. So even without the shadow, we really understand the size of her cheeks, the size of her eyes, what kind of a jawline she has. So I certainly would not recommend that everyone light everything with only one light, but I think you can do it sometimes, and it does work for a portrait. We've changed the lovely Debbie Park into something a little bit more glamorous, and we're going to change our shot as well. Now, we've talked about how we use the Octabank to create a very soft shot. And just to review, we create the soft shot by taking the Octabank and moving it close to her. Because the light is so large, the light hits her in a big pattern, and it kind of wraps around her body, gives us a very soft shot. And the soft shot can be a beautiful shot, but it's certainly not the only shot that you want to do. So right now, we want to get something just a little bit more dramatic. So what we're going to do is take our light, instead of putting it directly in front of her, we're going to move it so it's only on one side. Put it here. You're looking at the shot from camera position now, and if you look to your right, Debbie's left, you see our light is to the side of her. Now, Debbie, can you turn into the light a little bit, please? Right. So what we're going to have her do is we're going to have her play into the light. She's going to pose into the light, and we're going to shoot from the position you're looking at now, which is a bit sideways to her. But because we're only lighting one side of her, we're going to get something that's a little bit more dramatic, something that does have shadows, and these shadows will help define her body. Beautiful. So you want to keep working poses like that, but you want to do it so it feels like you're not posing. You want us to feel like this is something that's really happening right now. Don't look at the camera ever. You're staying on that light the entire time. Just don't go too close to it. Go back again. Back up again. Now do that step forward. That's it. Beautiful. That's beautiful. Keep playing into that light. Even if I'm not shooting, you should still be posing because you're just thinking about the light. So walk away from it and step back into it again. Go get close to it. The camera. You're never looking at the camera. Small smile at the light. That's the sun. Small smile. Keep your legs the way you had it. Go back again. Stay there. Now just work the right hand on the body.
Hi, I'm Debbie. Thank you for watching On Set with John Ricard. You could check me out on MySpace. Hope you learned something about lighting.